Okay. We will ask the Yaman-Toot drum again to start us off in honoring our flags, our eagle staff, American flag, tribal flag, and the state flag. Yaman-Toot, a flag song.
Hey,
I would like to ask Alec Kwikwisu to come up and give us a prayer to open up our event this afternoon.
Lemlem Chatwin. For this afternoon, that we know we all gather here for a special reason today. That we can look among each other, to relatives, to family, of what we're here for today. Lemlem for the drum group, which goes, our songs go along with our prayers. So this afternoon, that may we put it into our hearts of what's left of the family. Only thing that we have left is their spirits that still travel through here. They're here with them all the time, every day. It's with the family members that we pray with you. We pray for you. The strength that we get in our hearts, the strength that we get from our prayers. All the beautiful things that we pray for this afternoon, that we may be strong. We can put into our minds the word of our God, our Colin Zuten. Keks chawe lokal keks yakotsen yakke. Don't look at keks takekasen chaptums to it always chenum to champia. Sen kweli Hoto wat kan pele. Me keks khasi. It is emkasan nas kat kwantem to kest. Takekasay chenum to putin pelatum sen kweli. Tapkach ale. Damet don't kas proposent as misten. What do you it el has she it to enjoy to pele there. Chawe so for this make was for me. It's quite look at else so sense bacht kom yet say. Had out was mask to quite say ask quest Schamensch don't cherish the less yards but also and there's coatly yet totally quite hate what's chamask.
Which comes yet far to guess yet was quite so careful we can speak it and go guess was quite God Jesus that guess was Turn to smart kun at so fast couldn't so turn on the wilks and quen to the sea till bed where you cold yes so speak that's nicht and next and quit. As cold smash couldn't so numstum to the else say o sense. And the quinch and so to conamentum couldn't so turn old on the wheel quest stadiums the quest made yet parts had heart. Quest still west home still west shepless come yet say. It's quest look at else so sense bacht come yet say. Lemons, thank you, Alec. Lemons to the Yamantsut drum group. Okay, I'd like to thank all of those in attendance here. And all of those who participated in the fundraisers, SKC-TV tribes, and the humanity of Montana who helped fund and put things together so we could have this great day. Helped us come together as one to recognize an injustice that took place here 100 years ago. Not actually here, but just a short distance from here. And we hope this will help to build a better future for all of us. "100 years ago on this day, probably at this moment, Clarice Paul was a long ways north of here. But she was heading back this way. She had survived a terrible morning and was now guiding a rescue party of Pend Oreille warriors led by Nhwesque, many names. We are gathered here to commemorate and to remember, to honor the good people who were killed that day, and to honor the others in the tribal party who survived the Swan Massacre. Those in that party, the victims, was Lil Camille Paul Ahmed, Atoen Tsui, Mazda, Kwali Huchu, Martin Yellow Mountain, Padlaswes Tsui, Francis Tsui, and those who survived was Claude, Clarice Paul, Malit Apad, Sapshin Ma, who was Mrs. Yellow Mountain, and Samadli Lil Mary, and St. Pinot, John Peter Paul, who at that time was not born, but his mother was 6 months pregnant with him. The Swan Massacre was a terrible tragedy. Not only because of the fine people who were lost that day and the elders who have told us that they were highly regarded as good people, but also because the loss, the violence of the day was utterly unnecessary. This was their Aboriginal territory. Through the Treaty of 1855, they were granted and they were given the rights to hunt, to gather, to fish in their accustomed places, their Aboriginal territory. Although they were given that right, the treaty rights and the treaty rights, they still got hunting license. Although it was not necessary, they still purchased hunting license to come here in their homeland, their hunting land. All they were doing was coming to gather their winter meat, as we all do every year today. They were practicing their traditional ways, following the trails that they followed for hundreds of years, where their ancestors have gone through. Places where people have been, their ancestors have been for thousands of years, used by the Pend Oreille people, Salish people. They're guaranteed by the Hellgate Treaty. They thought they were safe. This was a promise that the United States, the government, who they call the President Amotkin, gave them. So when they came here, I'm sure that they felt at ease and safe. So that tragedy that day was unnecessary. For whatever reason, that game warden had to come into their camp and to kill the people will never really be known. He came several times to tell the people to move, to get out. People did not believe that he meant it. The people, the Indian people, always trusted and felt that he wouldn't do anything. They did not understand English very well. The 13-year-old boy who would tell the elders what the game warden said, but they didn't believe that they could be so mean. Finally, they felt the need to believe that there might be something wrong. But before they could leave camp, the game warden came back, instigated an argument, and killed the people. The civilian, the deputized civilian, Rudolph, shot the 13-year-old boy. John Peter Paul's mother, Clarice, fearing for the lives of the survivors, pulled a rifle from under her dead husband and weaved and charged towards the game warden, who was reloading to shoot some more. But before he could do it, she was able to kill the game warden. And for many years after, this was on her shoulders. She didn't want her story to be told. She didn't want anything to be mentioned. But she was feeling bad about this. After John was born and old enough to know, she told him about the events and told him that she didn't want anything said or told about this until after she was gone. So her son John honored this and never did say anything or do anything about it until later years, when John, his health going down, came to our office, discussed this, wanted it to be told, wanted it to be written, wanted people to understand what took place. Not necessarily as retaliation, but something so that people will understand what took place, how important it was for young people to know that they have a right through the treaty, through the promises of the government to be here, to hunt and to do things that their ancestors did for many, many years. So we had an opportunity to work with John on this last few years of his life. Tom and some of the other people and John came over to visit the landowner where this event took place, which is now underwater. The man was agreeable for us to be there today. We also discussed about putting a memorial, a stone that we found not far from here, to put there and to have it engraved with their names He agreed to that in the beginning, but he was not, the old man who had agreed to this before passed on, and so the children are now in charge of land, and the children, one of them that stays there, agreed to this. But evidently the rest of the family didn't come to terms with this, which is fine. It's their privilege as landowners. But they allowed us to be there today, to honor us today, so we can honor those who have passed on. We are grateful to John Peter Paul and his family. To be able to share this story with the public today. Something I believe that will bring back and people to understand the hunting rights of the Indian people. It's not that we're trying to retaliate in any way. We just want to exercise our rights. We just want people to understand a culture that will die without these Aboriginal territories being part of our way of life. We have been put on reservations, and just by that has taken away a lot of our way of life. We had to change our way of life. To roam, to go freely, to gather food for our families, to hunt. And so the elders have always thought, and always felt that the treaty preserved that right for them. And that event 100 years ago was something that they were continued to practice, their rights, their life, their tradition. Today we honor those people, and I hope that from this day on, now that we can share the story with the general public, that we never forget what took place, that we never forget their sacrifices for their beliefs, their customs, their values, that was passed down to us, and that we learn them and we understand them, and we respect them and pass those on to future generations. And we hope today that that will bring an understanding not only between our own people, but different cultures, the tribes, the state, federal people, to understand one another and to respect one another. Thank you. And now he's back. And now I would like to introduce the chairman of the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes to come up and say a few words. James Steele, Jr.
Tom Smith said it was a mile. It was the longest mile that all of us on the bus had ever ridden in our lives. As we were looking for the facilities, I could just imagine John.
It was a mile. You guys just went 10 miles.
I could imagine John kind of smiling down on us as we were going on a tour. I could just see him smiling at us in that van. I'd just like to say, that, you know, the events of today, and I said a few words earlier, conjured up in my mind various words, emotional words. Words that in my mind capture what happened 100 years ago today. You know, word like a family, a word like a nation, words such as promise, faith, and hope, fear, tragedy. The family, as Tony had said earlier, they had done this for many times and had no reason to be afraid. And earlier Tony mentioned as they started out that day, they didn't know what was going to happen. But they were practicing what they've always practiced. We as a tribe had the promise that we could exercise that right. Of course, there was the hope that they would be able to have a successful hunt for the stores that they would build up for the winter and help the families with food and provisions. And they had faith in the Creator that He'd provide as He had done before. I think Tony did a wonderful job in explaining the history of it. I think it's with great honor, and it shows the kind of people that we are, that even out of tragedy we can figure out ways to work together. 100 years ago, our people gave their lives for us, for all of us as a nation. That family stood to defend themselves, but they stood to defend us today and defend the right that we all enjoy to come in usual and accustomed places that the treaty talks about. I started the day thinking, that they had lost their lives, but really I've changed my mind. They gave their lives for us. I feel humbled and honored to stand and represent you all and represent all of us. But I'm also appreciative of the fact that 100 years ago, our people and our family of our people, various members of the family, essentially there was a battle here in that particular location. A fight between our traditional ways, our cultural ways, and the society around us that was encroaching. I think I often wonder what those ancestors would think that we have representatives of the state of Montana here today. One of our own, Anna Sorrell, she'll be speaking for the governor's office, which probably wouldn't have happened 100 years ago or 50 years ago. But we have our law enforcement, Chib, Espinoza, and the state law enforcement folks that are here, and they work together real well. So I would say out of tragedy, there's come a little bit of healing, and where we're working together. But with that, I thank everyone, and just ask for blessings of the Creator upon everyone here, upon the Lundberg family, and upon the family of the officers that, for whatever reason, shot and killed our people. And I pray and ask for a blessing, especially over our Paul family. And I just thank you. I'm much.
Thank you, Jim. Step.
Yeah.
Okay, next I would like to ask, I believe the second oldest survivor, the second oldest of the John's, I think you're the second oldest. Second oldest of John's children, Josephine Quick-Wisuit, to come up. She also works with us at the Salish Ponderay Culture Committee. Josephine?
Thank you. We've all said it before, how we really enjoyed all this, and I'm happy that all these people are here to remember what happened, the tragedy to my grandfather and all them other people. And I hope this brings an understanding that we can get along now after all these years and have some healing, have some understanding. And maybe we can all get along to know that we do have tragedies and we can come some good to it and find out the whole story on all the things that happened. And I know my brothers and sisters all understand, because we were around my grandmother a lot, so we understood how she lived and what she understood and why she wouldn't talk about the tragedy till later, because it was so hard for her and shocking for her to ever talk about what happened to her. And she told that to my dad. So now that they are both gone, so it's good that we can do it now and have a better understanding of all this and have a closing where we can have good memories of my family, and that is good. So thank you all for all attending and understanding this situation. Thank you.
Lieutenant Josephine. Next, on behalf of the Governor Schweitzer, it should be a Smith or a Jones, it would be easier. Anna Whiting-Sorrell.
I would really like to extend my honor to be here today. Yesterday, Governor Schweitzer traveled to Pablo and hand-delivered this letter to the Tribal Council that he's asked that I come and read today to all of you. You know, on a personal note, I really would like to express the honor that it is for me to be here today and to be able to go back and express to the governor on Monday morning what transpired here. I will take this back with me, and I will remember it each day as I walk through the governor's office doors and as we do the important work of the state, and as we really continue to build relationships between our tribal communities and the state of Montana. So I begin, as the letter begins, Dear Chairman Steele, Director Nkashola, and friends, Lieutenant Governor Bollinger and I extend our apologies for not being there in attendance with you today. As you can imagine, our schedules have become very tight at this point in time. The events that transpired on October 18th, 1908 in the Upper Swan Valley between a game warden and a Ponderay hunting party were of the utmost tragic. In 1855, the Hellgate Treaty was well established and guaranteed the right of the tribe to hunt in these Aboriginal territories. The events of the Swan Massacre can only be seen as murder. Today, we offer remembrance of the victims and recognize the family who have survived this tragic day. With time, we can heal, forgive, and build new relationships in the wake of tragedy. In recent decades, tribal and state officials have worked hard to create a cross-cultural understanding and mutual respect to ensure that this kind of tragedy will never happen again. The state of Montana and the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes just renewed a bird hunting and fishing agreement in 2006. It establishes and implements a reservation-wide plan for the conservation and use of fisheries and bird resources. The revenue generated from the sale of these hunting licenses on the reservations fund the efforts within the tribe. The state has also recently recognized the treaty right of the CSKT tribal people to hunt buffalo near Yellowstone National Park. This cooperation between the tribe and the state are a sign of a healthy, collaborative relationship. We will never forget the events of that tragic day 100 years ago. And with the help of the Montana Department of Transportation, the events that transpired will be forever landmarked along Highway 83. Sincerely, Governor Brian Schweitzer and Lieutenant Governor Bollinger. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Governor. And thank you, Lieutenant Governor, for your words on this day, memorable day. Next, I would like to introduce the Director of the Fish, Wildlife and Park, Jeff Hagner.
Thank you, Tony. I'm very honored to be here today as part of this commemoration. As was talked about several times today, it was 100 years ago today, a short distance from here, that very tragic event occurred. And it was a tragedy to all of us from the tribal side as well as from the side of the state. It's an event that has been steeped in controversy ever since. But of one thing, there's no doubt. There were 5 people that lost their lives on that horrific October morning in 1908. At that time, Fish, Wildlife and Parks, which is the agency we are today, was known as Fish and Game and was actually only 5 years old. For the entire state of Montana, there were eight Game Wardens for the entire state of Montana. So it was an incident that was very significant, having to do with the agency that we have. It was a time also, the reason that there was a Fish and Wildlife Agency that was put together at that time was because many of our species that we really enjoyed, that you enjoyed for hundreds of years before white man came here and that we enjoy now, were virtually on the edge of extinction. A lot of our species had been over-harvested, commercially harvested, and a lot of things, and that's the reason that laws were put in place, and that's why there was an agency put forth to look at trying to manage those species. That affected, that shortness of animals was also affecting the native peoples, just as had been said earlier, that their livelihoods depended on those once rich resources for their very livelihood and for their sustenance each year. To say the least, this event that occurred showed in a graphic and horrible way that clash of times, cultures, and values. Today we look back with distance of time and wonder what caused things to go so horribly wrong. What happened that day? What did people do and what was said that would result in such bloodshed? It's hard to understand all of what did happen there. We can never know those things, but what we do know is that in the course of this past 100 years, the Confederated tribes and what is now Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks have developed a hugely different relationship. From the ashes of that October 18th, 1908 event has come an important relationship between the Agency of Fish, Wildlife and Parks and the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes, between Montana Game Wardens and their tribal counterparts and the people of the state with members of the tribes. We've been witness to some great watershed cooperative efforts in the conservation of our great resources. As Anna talked about from the governor's letter, from the groundbreaking licensing compact. We've done numerous wildlife and fisheries projects together. We've worked together in off-reservation tribal hunting. And just most recently, Anna also referred to that, is that we thought it went very well in the first year. We've actually been working a couple of years now to allow for and recognize the treaty rights to hunt the bison in the Yellowstone Park area. That's been a difficult situation. It's highly controversial, not because of the tribal involvement, but just the hunting of bison in general. But the work that we've done with the Salish Kootenai folks and the tribal people, Pablo and his folks, has been very good. We were very appreciative of those efforts. Today, our state game wardens and the tribal game wardens stand and work side by side, allied in their efforts. We couldn't have had as successful a season as we did down there last year without the tribal wardens and the state game wardens working together. It was very successful. Back to that tragic day, it did give a very important relationship between members of the Fish, Wildlife, and Parks and the Confederated Tribes to preserve, enhance, and protect our wild resources for today and the generations to come. I think we all recognize the value. In Montana, when I travel throughout the nation to visit with my counterparts about fish and wildlife management, Montana is envied throughout the entire nation for the resources we have. And we can all be very proud of those resources, but it's very important that we do manage and conserve those resources. And we need to do that together, all of us working together. All of this while building and maintaining respect and recognition of the tribal sovereignty and the importance of our wild resources, both culturally and legally. We should not and cannot forget the events that transpired here that frosty October morning. And part of our purpose here today is the dedication of a commemorative marker so that that will not be lost in time. That everyone can remember, tourists and anybody that comes down the valley can be reminded of that, stop and see the sign, and know what happened there. Today is a time to reflect on the past, but also to look to a future of even greater work together in both our respective roles as members of the tribes, the community, and the state. And with that, I thank you and appreciate and honor the opportunity to be here with you today.
Thank you, Jeff. Our last speaker, but definitely not least, is our Chief of the Game Wardens, Pablo Chib Espinoza.
Hello, everyone. I'm the chief of the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes, tribal police or tribal fish and game program. I'm honored and appreciate the opportunity to speak today. I've worked for the tribes for almost 30 years, and I've seen many changes. At this time, we have great cooperation with Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. We have a tribal joint bird hunting and fishing agreement where our tribal wardens are cross-deputized with Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, and the state Fish, Wildlife, and Parks wardens are cross-deputized with the tribe. This is working out very well due to the cooperation between both agencies. Frank Bowen is a Fish and Wildlife Parks warden assigned to our area at this time. We have developed a great working relationship with him and have worked jointly on many cases. His willingness to learn about the reservation, our people, and to work with our officers is very much appreciated. Our treaty rights allow tribal members to hunt off reservation on Forest Service lands. At the present time, we are involved in our second wild bison hunt season in areas outside Yellowstone National Park, which is Gardner and West Yellowstone. Our tribal members are able to harvest bison that migrate out of Yellowstone National Park onto Forest Service lands from September 1st until January 31st. Our tribes invest a lot of time and effort into educating tribal members in regards to this hunt by requiring bison orientation classes developed by Tom McDonald, our division manager, and Jermaine White, information and education. Before issuing the permit, the support of the tribal council is appreciated. I feel our wild bison hunt is a model for other tribes to use, and I'm very proud of this. At this time, I would like to thank the Montana Department of Livestock, Shane Grube, and U.S. Forest Service personnel for their assistance and cooperation in our wild bison hunt. Special thanks to Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks Warden Captain Sam Shepard and his wardens for their hands-on assistance in the field during our actual bison hunt. Fish and Game law enforcement has improved with the cooperation of our tribe and the Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. I look forward to continuing to work together and building stronger relationships in the future, and appreciate the mutual respect of our agencies. Again, I would like to thank our Tribal Council for their insight and direction. It's essential to protect our off-reservation treaty hunting rights. Thank you.
Thank you, Chib. Let's eat. In closing, I would like to thank all of you again for participating in an event that we hope brings us understanding, brings us together for a brighter and stronger future. I'd like to thank all of those who made this possible. I'd like to thank my right-hand man who does a lot of hard work on his own. Even though I tell him not to, he doesn't listen to me. This beautiful brochure that you see is the work of Thompson Smith, and I want to thank him. All of you have that. He has done a lot for us at the Culture Committee, for the tribe. But again, I thank you for being here. We are here as individuals. We are here as individual minds, different cultures, different backgrounds. But we're all here for one purpose, for the same purpose, for a better life, better future. Together, we can make that a better future for our children. As our parents and our ancestors have tried to leave us the best place they could. And if you look around in this beautiful country we live in, we have much to be proud of. We have much to be thankful to our leaders, to our chiefs, our parents, our grandparents. All the sacrifices that have been made in order to maintain what we have. It is up to us to continue that, to make sure that our children carry that on, to make sure that our children understand each other, to understand the different cultures and to respect it. And together we can make this a brighter and stronger place to live. Let us not make those sacrifices made by our ancestors go to waste. Let's make use of them and guide our children in the right direction. Give them the correct information, give them the correct stories, and give them the correct guidance. So 100 years from now, they can stand here. They can be proud of who they are. They can be proud of what they have accomplished. And they can talk about their ancestors and what we gave to them. So with that, I hope this day is the beginning of something that we can build on, something that we can understand, that those relationships between different governments, between different peoples, between different cultures. Mommy. That's all our people ever wanted. That's all our people ever wanted to be understood for. was to be able to live in a way that was intended them to be, how to live. So with that, I hope that you all leave here with a little bit more understanding, with a little more respect for each other, a little more pride for each other, and something to build on for the future. Thank you. As you all know, at 5 o'clock, we're going to be down there on the highway to dedicate the new historical sign. So to close this, I ask Yamantsut to give us first an honor song to honor those that we spoke about today and to honor our ancestors and hope that we are guided to do the right thing. Yamantsut. The bus left already.
Stand up, Mom. Stand up, Wes.
Again, I'd like to thank Tom again for all his help in getting the sign put up, working with the highway department with John. And John is here to represent Montana Highway Department. If you want like to say a few words, John.
I'll just say a very few words.
Just John Axe line?
Yeah. I'm used to talking in 200 words or less, like with these signs, so I'll keep it short. I've been the Department of Transportation historian for almost 20 years, and I've been working on these historical markers for almost as long as that. But I found over the years that the ones that I like best are the ones that when people stop and read them, that they're going to get something out of it. And I think this sign is probably better than most of what's been put up next to the highways, and that there's a real lesson to it, that we can see how far we've come since these events happened in 1908 to where we are today, and how much better things have become since then. And also, on behalf of the Highway Department, I'm very happy that we could accommodate the CSKT's request to put this up. And hopefully, you know, in the future, I'd really like to do more signs that tell the CSKT side of the story. I mean, there's a whole part of Montana history that most of us never get a chance to experience. And I think the sign like this and other signs that I'd like to work with you on would really do a lot to really enhance people's views of the Treasure State and how much we love being here. With that, that's all I got. Okay. Thank you.
again, I'd like to thank all of you for coming here to help us with this great day.
Dwayne,
Remembering.
before you finish up, let me just say a word of John's help. You know, he really stuck his neck out and worked extra hard to make sure that this became a reality. We kind of sprung this on him in the summer, and it probably all happened about 5 times as fast as your usual historical marker, didn't it?
Well, you know, at the Department of Transportation, things always happen at the last minute. So even though we got years to think about it.
Well, I just wanted everybody to know that John really did us a great service in helping make this happen.
Come on.